Good morning. Good morning. You guys are so amazing this morning. I'm very proud of you for being so alert and enthusiastic. I know that Marilyn warmed you up already. And regardless, you're still awake, even though it's an hour earlier, right? Or an hour, so we spring forward. It's an hour different. Although my cats thought it was the same time, so they really wanted to... I don't know, they wanted to love at me extra early in the morning, which was lovely. It's so cute. I love my cats. Yeah. So my theme this month is about compassion. We're taking the leap this year. Taking the leap, and I told a quick story at the beginning of the year about a tree. There's this one type of tree. In the first year, the tree kind of lays dormant. They say that the tree sleeps. And then the second year, the tree has little branches and it kind of grows a little bit, and so it creeps. But the third year, the tree just explodes into all its glory. The tree leaps. And since this is our third year with weekly services, this is our year to take the leap. And we're investigating every month in different areas of our life that we can take the leap in. And this month, it's in compassion. My theme this week is, what if that were you? What if that were you? There's a couple ways of looking at this. One, I think about the time that I went to a convention, and there was somebody who was up at the front, and they said, "This is a $100 bill." And we're like, "Yes, it is." And then they said, "Who wants it?" And the first person who raised their hand, they gave it to them. Well, what if that were you? I'll tell you, it wasn't me. I was like, "Oh, I wish that was me." But I didn't raise my hand. So I think about that, but then I also think about the time I went to Safeway. It was last week. I was at Safeway, and I really love their chicken artichoke sandwich. I don't know if you've had it before, but it's really good. And so I'm standing in line, and there's a ton of people in line. And there's a woman, and she has a box of raspberries and a box of blueberries, and she like leaned weird, and the box of raspberries fell, and it just went everywhere. And then she went to go pick it up, and the lid on the box of blueberries opened, and it spilled, and they rolled everywhere. And then she just looked at it and horrified, just like absolutely horrified. And she looked up at the lady behind the counter, and she says, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I made a big mess." And then she threw it down, and she took off. What if that were you? What about the woman behind the counter who had a line full of people? What if that were you? And then there's me standing there. And so I decided I need to help clean this up, because that poor lady behind the counter, she doesn't know what to do. She's trying to call somebody to bring in to sweep this up and everything. And so, we're all on our hands and knees picking up blueberries and raspberries, scooching them out of the way, so people don't walk over them or run over them with our carts, which they did. And, And what if that were you? What would you do? Are you cursing the person who dropped everything and got so embarrassed that she had to run away? Are you the person behind the counter who's in shock and doesn't know how to handle the situation in order to make it quickly, clean it up quickly and easily? Or the person on the other side of the counter who has the opportunity to assist, but sometimes doesn't jump into action? What if that were you? I think about this a lot. We have these choices every day. Whenever I'm driving and I see somebody with a sign that says, "I'm homeless, I'm out of my luck, need some help," I always have extra money to give to these people. I don't know if you've ever been homeless before. I have not. I've been blessed to not have been homeless. But I've talked to some homeless people, and I can tell you that it's pretty degrading. And most people who are homeless don't choose to be homeless. They have an unfortunate circumstance that happened in their life. And they're at the bottom, the lowest of the low. And they don't know what to do except they realize that they can't survive unless they ask for help. They can't do anything else. They have no more resources. They have nothing left. And they have to ask for help, and sometimes they have to beg for help. And sometimes they have to hope that somebody's going to be kind enough to give them a sandwich or a dollar. And sometimes these same people have lost their hope in humanity and in themselves. And so, yeah, maybe they're going to take that dollar and they're going to buy some alcohol so they can cover up the fact that they feel so desolate and ashamed about their position. What if that were you? We walk in this planet, in this human time and place, and often forget that we're all in charge of each other. And I don't mean like I'm in charge of controlling your life. I mean, I'm in charge of helping you out. I'm in charge of uplifting you, of offering love and compassion. There's a story I read about a woman who's a teacher. She wrote an article. And she said that often she would see the scene unfold. And she'd be there, the advisor on the playground, the teacher on the playground, and the kids would be playing kickball. And she'd look away for a second, and all of a sudden she'd hear a scream. And there'd be a child on the ground hugging their knee, crying. And then when she walked up and she'd rush over to help this child, the kids would say, "Oh, he did it. No, 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 she did it. No, 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 he did it." And then another child would say, "No, nobody did it. He tripped and fell. He did it to himself." And she would say, "You know, when someone is hurt, you need to stop what you're doing immediately and check to see if they're okay. It's not about who did what or how this happened. It's about the person who's injured and how can we be compassionate with them." And so she'd say, whenever someone is hurt, you must stop what you're doing to see what you can do to make it better. You need to ask, what can you do to help? You stop your game, and you don't go playing your game again until you know your friend is okay. And then you regroup and see how you can play it safely in the future. So what she would do is she'd get in, she'd educate these children, and then she'd give them jobs. You go run, get the first aid kit. You tell your friend jokes. You help them over to the bench. And you see what you can do to alleviate and make your friend feel better about it. And so each person had a role to play in uplifting the situation. And then after they were done, she said, "Let's powwow. Let's get together and see what we can do to make this game safer." By the way, the woman who wrote this article is Lauren Rosenfield. And she pointed out that oftentimes as adults, we don't do much better than our children. We don't. Something happened, something terrible and tragic happens, and the first thing we say is, "It wasn't me. I didn't do it. He did it first and he didn't get in trouble." You always let him get away with it. Why am I always the one who gets punished for this? We're pointing fingers at everywhere except at ourselves because we're not willing to take responsibility for the entire group, the entire society. And all the time, the injured party is sitting there wondering if anybody even knows that they're injured. So it's not about what's on purpose and what's on accident. It's about stopping in our tracks to see if we're playing the game safely. It's about recognizing that one of our own is injured. And when I say one of our own, I mean a human being. Any human is one of our own. What can we do in those situations? It's really easy to point fingers, but it's a lot more challenging to see, what can I do to be the one to help out this situation? It's about taking ownership. It's about acting as if the problem is our own problem. The challenge is our own challenge. Taking ownership of your life, taking ownership of your community. What if you were the one who ran this community? What would you do? What if you were the one in your job who was the president of the company? What would you do? Rumi said, out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I will meet you there. Right? Dennis Merritt Jones says, compassion is the capacity to imagine what it must feel like to live in another person's skin and take appropriate action to help alleviate suffering when possible. There was this interesting study that came out recently about rats. And they realized that rats have empathy and compassion. Now, how did they discover this? They decided what they were going to do is they were going to put rats in a huge room. So it's like they're free, right? This gigantic room, this huge warehouse. So they had plenty of roaming space. And then they put a cage, a small cage where there were a couple other rats, and it was locked. And lo and behold, the rats that were the free rats came over to the cage, figured out how to unlock the cage, and unlocked the cage and freed the rats. And they thought, well, maybe they wanted friendship, maybe there was some kind of ulterior motive to this. So they decided to do a couple other experiments. What if we put the rats that are in a cage, that their door opens, but it's open to another place that's as if it's a free enclosure, but it's separate. So they have to open the door, but then they go into a place that's not the same place where the free rats are. It's another free space, right? But it's separate. And so they did the same thing. They did this experiment, and the rats figured out again how to open the door and free their caged friends, and they went free into another space. So it wasn't about, wow, I want to hang out with you. It was more about, let's get them free. And they thought, well, let's check their motivation on this. What we're going to do is we're going to have two cages, and one cage inside there is going to be a bunch of chocolate chips, which apparently rats love. I had no idea, but but they knew the rats loved the chocolate chips. I know, they're smart rats, huh? And so they had the two cages, and the free rats had the choice. They could only do one thing. They could either open one door with the chocolate chips, or they could open the door with the other rats. And they went and chose the door with the other rats. Now, if rats have empathy and compassion in them, I think we can do the same or better. We hope. And the invitation is out there to you. What are you going to choose? What are you going to choose? I'm reading a book by Thomas More. Actually, I'm rereading it. It's one of the practitioner requirement books called Care of the Soul. And there's a story in there. And Thomas More, who wrote this book, he's a psychologist. And he had a client with him. And this man said, I am so unhappy with my job. I have been dissatisfied with my job for 10 years. And he's been planning his escape for 10 years. He knew what he wanted to do when he left his job. He wanted to go to school and enter into a new profession. And yet he stayed in his job. He was 10 years in his job, and he had this dream. He had this wish and desire. And yet he still stayed in his job. While he was focused on his escape, his work suffered. He was always dissatisfied. Always. And so Thomas More asked him a question. Have you ever thought of being where you are? Of entering fully into this job that you're putting your time and energy into? And the guy said, it is not worth it. This job is beneath me. And he said, but you do it every day, and you do it badly. And then you feel bad about yourself for doing it badly. And the guy said, "You mean I should do this stupid job as if my heart were in it?" And he said, "You're in it, aren't you?" And so the man decided to take him on. He decided to do his job as if his heart were in it. And in a couple of weeks, he came back and he was completely transformed. He was a happy man. He was loving his job. And the thing is that he had been living an alienated and a divided life. He had been living out there. And what was happening is right here was suffering. Everything was suffering. What if you acted as if what's happening is what you chose? What if you acted as if the thing in front of you is the thing for your greatest well-being? I know sometimes it's difficult to say this whenever you're maybe going through a divorce or having challenges with housing or a difficult living situation, a challenging tenant, challenging landlord. I know I'm speaking to you because you've all told me these things. And what if those were the things that were your greatest and best well-being? They were for your greatest and best well-being. What if what was put in front of you is something that you chose? So what if you didn't? But what if you chose that it was that you chose it? What would it be if you were the director of your own life and you put this situation in front of you for your greatest well-being? What would it be for? How would you choose to live through it? How would you choose to step into it? How would you choose to be every day? Who would you want to be? People often say, "I want love in my life. I want to be a compassionate person." And then whenever the tough situations emerge for us to show that quality to the world, we get mad. We're angry. Why did this happen to me? Well, maybe because you called forth that you want to be a voice of love in this world. Maybe you said, "I want to be a leader for peace." And then everything around you becomes violent. How are you going to be a leader for peace unless you're in the midst of the violence and you are the peace? How are you going to be the voice of love in the world whenever there's all kinds of opportunities for people to be unloving towards you and around you, and you aren't the voice of love? These things happen so we can stand in our power and our truth, and we can be the thing that we're seeking. Every opportunity comes forth for us to stand in our truth and really declare who we are. So it's not what's happening, it's how you are in what's happening. So what if that were you? What if you were the homeless person? How would you want people to be with you? What if that were you, where you forgot that you're the one who's responsible for your job? What if that were you when you remember who you really are? Ernest Holmes says, "Compassion and caring are the ties that bind us together in mutual understanding and in the unified attempt to uncover the divinity in each other. Compassion is the most gentle of all human virtues, for it is the outpouring of the divine givingness through all." So I invite you to think about how am I going to be compassionate this week? Take this on. How am I going to be a compassionate being everywhere I am? How am I going to stand and take on this world as if I chose it exactly how it is, and its messiness, and its challenges, and its difficulties? What if I chose that? How am I going to choose to be in it? It's up to you. It's your choice. Let's pray. I know that the thing that I call God is the universal everything. Other people call it Buddha, Krishna, Muhammad, Jesus. Other people call it love, the universe, the quantum field. But whatever it is called, it is the thing, the genesis of all, the great architect of the universe, the thing itself that created this divine expression of love and light. And I know that it created everything, every possibility, infinite opportunities. And I get to choose to align myself with the greatest me that I was meant to be. And as I know that this infinite everything, which is everywhere present, is in and through me, I know it's in and through everybody that I meet. And so I recognize that when I look in front of me and I see another, that I'm looking into my own eyes, the eyes of the one. And I recognize that whenever I step into my job, that everywhere I go, I am. And as I am the voice of love. I am the being of compassion. I am the leader for justice. I am a powerful creator of kindness in this world. And I know that as I claim that for myself, I claim that for each and every person here, that the power of the infinite is what is channeled through me everywhere I go. And so I don't have to do anything except be that love. I don't have to do anything except be that compassion. And I know and claim that as I step into my beingness, that I am a human being that divine expression. I'm grateful to know that the world is conspiring for my greatest joy. And as I step into each and every situation that comes forth into my life, I recognize it for what it is. An opportunity for me to be that love. An opportunity for me to be that compassion. And so I take that on. I take that aspect of the divine on, knowing it's already in me, and each and every person I come in contact with, I absolutely create a ripple effect in life wherever I go. And as I know that everybody here does the same, that there is something that has happened today that has transformed the entire world, that we cannot help but be the most divine light beings as we are meant to be. And so I release any not enoughness or fears or ideas of what it's supposed to look like. I release all of that and I just stand in the beingness, knowing that the light radiates, knowing that there's nothing that could stop it. It is good and very good. And as I celebrate this, I am filled with gratitude and knowingness, gratitude and appreciation that life continues to get better and better. Even though challenges may come up, I know how to be in them now. I don't have to try and figure it out. I can just be. I'm so grateful to know this truth, to stand in it, to radiate it outward, and to know that it's already done. I accept this. I embody this for myself and each and every person here. And I just say, thank you, God. Thank you, universe. Thank you, Goddess. Thank you, earth. Thank you, life. I am so grateful. I am so grateful. And so it is.